before we begin, there's something serious I need to tell you guys about regarding the 13th Doctor. I got this scarf for my birthday. It's the 13th Doctor scarf from Resolution. It's the Lavazi people who made this scarf. It's based on the scarf that the 13th Doctor wore in Resolution, and it's really nice. I love this. I loved seeing this scarf in that episode. It was really great. I also liked the scarf from Haunting Villa Diodati, but I don't think Lavazi. I don't think they've made a replica of that yet, but yeah, it's a great scarf. It feels nice. It's a bit tickly at the back with the neck, but it's because I'm not wearing anything above this shirt. So if I was wearing a coat, it'd probably be less tickly. But yeah, it's a lovely scarf, and I got it for my birthday recently, and it's brilliant. And as this is the 13th Doctor ranking, I thought I would wear it for this. So, without further ado, on with the ranking. Nick here, and welcome to my top 10 Doctor Who 13th Doctor stories ranking 2021 edition. So we will be ranking the top 10 13th Doctor stories as of Revolution of the Daleks, the first 20 Doctor Who stories with the 13th Doctor, over 22 episodes due to being two-parters in Series 12, one of which is on this list, by the way. Yeah, well, basically, it'd be my favourite episodes from series 11 and 12 together on this list. To be honest, this is a bit like the 5th Doctor list, where there was only 20 stories from his era as well. However, the 13th Doctor has 20 stories over 2 series, whilst the 5th Doctor has 20 stories over 3. And there will be another 13th Doctor series later this year. Yay! Which is why there will be an updated version of this ranking, the 2022 edition, next winter, early spring. So there'll be some episodes of Series 13 on there. Hopefully, if they're good enough. Let's hope Series 13 is the best series of the 3. I also say now that the 5th Doctor has more individual episodes, but back then the classic series was serialized. Well, now they're usually single-parters, maybe with some two-parters. So, without any further ado, the top 10 13th Doctor stories. First of all, the dishonourable and honourable mentions. Dishonourable mention first, it is, of course, the weakest episode of the 13th Doctor's era, Orphan 55, from Series 12 or Season 38. This is a very bad episode. There is so much going on. There's so many characters, and there's a really terrible twist revolving a environmentalist message at the end. It was so badly handled. At least Praxeus later this series is able to handle its message much better and in a more... And it actually has a story to go with it. Orphan 55, it just throws it in at the last minute and just tries to cram it down our throats at the last minute and force it in our faces. It's a bad story. I've already talked about this in length already quite a few times, so I won't talk too much about this now, but main issues is there are too many characters. They don't really do much. They're not that interesting, and the third act twist is awful and thrown in straight in our faces, and it doesn't work the story. Our honourable mention, on the other hand, is a much more easygoing, simple story, The Ghost Monuments, from Series 11 or Season 37. Yeah, The Ghost Monument is a really fun, enjoyable, a bit slow though, but it's a nice, easy, relaxing story. It's just nice to relax and watch it. It's simple. I can understand people who may not get into it because it's a bit slow and dull, but for me, I found it relaxing. It was pretty good. Starting with number 10. This might be a bit of a controversial opinion for some people, but my number 10 13th Doctor story is Fugitive of the Judoon from Series 12 or Season 38. Yeah, I just thought this was a fun episode, even with a bit of continuity change at the end. I say a bit, it's a very big one. But, you know, besides that, it's still a fun, engaging episode. The Judoon stuff is really great. And the Doctor finding out that Ruth is the fugitive is quite a fun story to go down. It's when we do get to that reveal that stuff doesn't quite work as well. And whilst the fugitive Doctor I do like, there isn't as much time to have her established due to the fact that she's mostly grazing at the 13th Doctor, and there aren't many answers to the character at this point, nor in the Timeless Children where she makes her next appearance. So hopefully we'll get to know more about her later down the line. Better still if she's the next Doctor, but we'll see how that goes. I don't buy that she's before the first Doctor because it just doesn't make sense with the TARDIS being the exterior being a police box. I think it's more likely that she's between 2 and 3. That theory actually makes a bit more sense. It's a bit more credibility. And if it's proven that this Doctor is after the first Doctor, then I think we'll be fine with another change in the number order like we did with the War Doctor. We're used to that by now. But it'd be better if she was the next Doctor. But we'll see how that goes down in Series 13 and the future, whatever happens. In the meantime, Fugitive of the Dune is a bit of a fun story. Oh yeah, Captain Jack's in this episode for some reason, and he takes the companions out of the story. Yay. Number 9, a story where Captain Jack's much better utilised. Revolution of the Daleks from Series 12 or Season 38. The 2021 New Year special, and the weaker of the 2 New Year specials, and the weakest of the 3 New Year Day episodes. But it's still a really good episode. It's quite a fun one. Like I said, Captain Jack's really good in this episode. And also Diet Trump, aka Jack Robertson, is much better in this episode compared to his Series 11 appearance, Arachnids in the UK. We also have some great Dalek stuff, although it doesn't really go on for too long. The main issue I do have with the story is, once again, an issue with most of Series 12. There's a lot going on, and it gets a bit overstuffed. Plus, the whole stuff at the prison could easily have been cut. It didn't need to be in this episode. It's just an excuse to get the Doctor out of the way so the companions could do something on Earth, try and fight the Daleks on their own. But they don't even do that much of that until the Doctor turns back up, and then everyone just goes off together. So the whole marketing of the episode was a lie. Because, yeah, the companions only did a few things before the Doctor came back. Yay! The second half of this episode is really fun, though. There's a lot of great stuff, especially with the Daleks, and some really cool moments. So, Revolution of the Daleks, it's still a fun episode and a pretty engaging one. Number 8. Number 8, we're moving into Series 11 territory with the first episode written by Pete McTeague, and the one that wasn't co-written by Tris General. That was the Series 12 one. Number 8, Kablam. A really fun and engaging episode, a lot of fun, and it definitely feels like this is definitely Doctor Who. We have, after 6 episodes of getting into this new era, episode 7 certainly feels like this is definitely Doctor Who. If you didn't believe it the last 6 weeks, you can believe it this week. The only real problem with this episode I have, or 2 problems. First of all, the villain's a bit weak, and the second issue is that it starts off as a parody of Amazon abusing its workers, but then it twists its tail into being on the side of a story that's on the side of Amazon, having a go at the workers. And whilst you can have staff members who abuse the system, it does feel like it's more siding with the company and going, yay, let's abuse the workers type of message, which leads the workers to go all terrorists on them. And the very end, where they say they're going to shut down Kablam for a month for redevelopment, but only give workers 2-week paid leave. I don't know whether that was also a bit supposed to be a parody, or if it's supposed to be ironic because it's based on real life. But I think the message should have come a bit clearer. One of them, and on a more personal night, also on a more personal note, I think Kiralo should not have died. But that's just me. Or at the very least, have the Doctor give the system a good ticking off afterwards for the fact that they killed an innocent girl, and for making Charlie go on the attack front earlier to when he planned. Number 7, a really fun and engaging series opener, Spyfall. Yeah, this is a pretty fun and engaging story. The first half is definitely a bit more simple. It's about stopping these aliens, interdimensional spies who are coming across the world and killing spies after they become detected. Now, the story doesn't utilize its Bond homage spy story pastiche as much as it should have done. It was playing with the idea of doing that, but then halfway through it just kind of went back to a more usual Doctor Who story, but with spies, before remembering, oh yeah, I'm a Bond homage spy pastiche in the third act for a bit, and then just before the and then it goes back to the usual story just before the climax. Though the climax does have a fantastic ending and a brilliant reveal and cliffhanger. Part 2 adds time travel to the mix, and it's a pretty fun time travel story, but Part 1 villain Daniel Barton does get pushed to the side when the Master comes in. He's not forgotten, but he does get pushed to the side, and the same for the companions, because the story has to have something for all of them to do. They kind of have this little mini story going on, but it doesn't really tie in much with what's going on, and it's just so that they can follow Barton around. Meanwhile, the Doctor meets up with 2 historical female figures, Ada Gordon, who will become Ada Lovelace, the first person who with Charles Babbage, starts developing ideas that would be the start of what would become the development of the computer, and India Noor Khan, who's a cipher behind enemy lines during World War II, and also contributes somehow, and also has some sort of contribution to computer technology. By the way, it was nice to see a picture of Alan Turing represented in the pictures of people who have helped develop the computer. Turing is a personal hero of mine. Sacha Dhawan's Master is also probably my favourite Master of the new series after Derek Jacobi. He is absolutely amazing, and his Master is probably the best written as well. He's just done so brilliantly. So overall, Spyfall is a really fun and rollicking adventure. It's not the greatest story, but it's still a really fun and enjoyable one. Moving on to number 6, another really enjoyable and fun adventure from Series 12, which Spyfall is also part of, is Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. This is the episode on this list I've had the most opinion change of, as I just used to like it, but now I really like it. I think it's a really fun episode. Nikola Tesla is a great character, and Goran Jovic is great as Nikola Tesla. He's the best guest actor of Series 12, and he just brings so much heart to Tesla, and he's just absolutely amazing. Along with a actor who playing a supporting character in a later episode on this list, he just becomes the character. He's so amazing. And the story is also quite a fun one. We got these scorpion-like aliens. They were not the most inventive of aliens, but it's pretty cool to know that they are pretty lazy. They don't build anything for themselves. They steal what they need. It's a clever idea. It's just that they're not very inventive villains themselves. Though Anju Mahindra is fantastic as the Skiffer Queen. And overall, this is a really fun and enjoyable historical adventure, and we'll be seeing a few more historicals on this list. But first, number 5. The better of the 2 Dalek New Year's specials and the best of the 3 New Year's Day broadcast episodes, Resolution. The Series 11 and 2019 New Year's special, Resolution, brings back the Daleks, or rather a Dalek, in a big way. After years of the Moffat era main Dalek stories not being very good, I liked Victory of the Daleks, but it could have been better. Assignment of Daleks is probably the worst Dalek story ever made. Into the Dalek had its moments, it was alright, but I couldn't quite get into it as much as I wanted to. Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar, it might be the second worst Dalek story ever made. And then any other time the Daleks appeared, it was either cameos or they had minor appearances in the story, but it wasn't really a proper Dalek story like those 4, unfortunately. And those range from unnecessary, I've seen Hellbent, to awesome, as we saw in Day of the Doctor. But as for the main Dalek stories, it was good, shit, okay, shit. But we haven't had a good Dalek story since 2010, and we haven't had an amazing Dalek story since 2008. And whilst I can't say Resolution or Revolution of the Daleks are amazing, they are definitely better than all of the Moffat ones. So they top Victory of the Daleks, but they don't quite get as far as the Rusty Davies era ones. Actually, these 2 both top the Series 3 two-parter, but the other RTD era Dalek stories are better than these 2. But Resolution is easily the best main Dalek story since The Stolen Earth and Journey's End. It's a great adventure, and it does something like Dalek. It just has one Dalek, and it proves that just one single Dalek can be dangerous, before Revolution of the Daleks has 2 armies of them who firstly fight each other, but they also attack humans. These stories are supposed to show how big of a threat the Daleks are. This episode, just one Dalek is this much of a threat, and if one Dalek's just this much of a threat, well, here comes Revolution of the Daleks 2 years later to show how big of a threat one, later 2 armies of Daleks can be. awesome. The New Year's special definitely also feels like a rollicking roller coaster of an adventure. A great story to show on New Year's Day, and we got some decent supporting characters, and thankfully it's not overstuffed like some other episodes that would follow. And yeah, it's a good episode. The only real main issues with the story is that there is also we're also wrapping up the Ryan character arc stuff and bringing back his dad and doing stuff with that. And whilst it does wrap up the series arc or series 11 for Ryan and Graham and their character arcs and what's going on and ties in the series, there are moments where it does focus on this, where it does feel a bit out of place in the episode with this Dalek romp. And I feel like this is a problem with the two Dalek stories by Chibnall, that whilst he writes the Daleks fantastically, but they're not as much of the focus of the story as maybe they should be. Certainly with Revolution, they should have been a bit more of the focus of that story. Thankfully, Resolution handles that a bit better. But it is merging the Dalek plot with other stuff going on. That does seem to be the weaker elements of the Dalek stories. Nevertheless, I am excited to see the Daleks for a third time, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Chibnall, or one of his other writers, will handle them. Heck, if Maxine Alderton can treat the Cybermen fantastically in The Haunting of Villa Diodati, I look forward to seeing how she could write the Daleks, if she got the chance to write for them. Or maybe it would be more like a Moffat era writer then, when he would try and hog the Dalek stories. Mark Gatiss did get to write one, and Phil Ford co-wrote one, but Moffat seemed to be hogging the Dalek stories throughout most of his era. I could say the same about the RTD era, but that's only for the series finales that the Daleks appeared in. Non-series finale Dalek stories of that era were written by other writers. Moving on to number 4, my favourite of the two series openers of the 13th Doctor's era, and probably my favourite opener of any series since Series 5. The Woman Who Fell to Earth, from Series 11. Sorry for any noise outside. I think someone's cutting something. Yeah, and there's some council people doing some work on the trees. Anyway, so Woman Who Fell to Earth. This is a very good start to the series, and also a really great start to the new Doctor's era. Yeah, it's a bit of a slow episode as well, just like the 11th hour, but it's still an enjoyable, relaxing one. Maybe it wasn't a good idea to follow Ghost Monument after this one, but, you know, together they're a nice, easy, relaxing way to get new audiences into the series, as well as maybe some people who went away during the Capaldi era due to maybe not really getting engaged with the scripts. Maybe they come back to try and see what this era is like, and maybe they can get into it again. Series 11 goes either way for most people. You either really enjoyed it, it's fresh and new and much needed after the Capaldi era and the Moffat era, or it does nothing for you, you can't get invested in it, and it's quite dull for you. So people's opinions of this series do kind of rest on how much they engage with it. Personally, I thought it was a pretty good series, and I might now even take it above Series 12 after these rewatches. And The Woman Who Fell to Earth is a really good start to this era. It might be a bit of a slow start, but like the 11th hour, slow and steady wins the race in the end, and this is certainly a really great episode. Moving on to number 3, and the top 3 of this ranking are all historical set stories. And my number 3 is my favourite episode from Series 12, and that is The Haunting of Villa Diodati. This episode is brilliant. It manages to merge horror and a ghost story in the first half into a more sci-fi adventure in the second half, with the arrival of the lone Cyberman, who is a great villain. The supporting characters are some of the best we have in this series, and we have some of the best supporting actors in the series, though I would give the best guest actor performance award to the actor playing Nikola Tesla, though recurring actor-wise it would be Sacha Dhawan as the Master. Anyway, but Haunting of Villa Diodati, brilliant episode, brilliantly scary at the start, and then brilliantly sci-fi later on. It does really great stuff. Now it's Grass Cutter. Anyway, moving on to number 2. Now, as I mentioned, Haunting of Villa Diodati was my favourite episode from Series 12, meaning that the top 2 are both from Series 11. Starting off with number 2, my original favourite episode of the series, but it's dropped down to number 2 due to the fact that my number 1 has gone up in opinion. And so my number 2 is now Rosa. This is a brilliant and hard-hitting historical drama episode that teaches us about the civil rights movement and hardships that go around. Yeah, not everybody's going to get into it because it's such a hard-hitting story, but that's the point. But if it didn't do that, it wouldn't be doing its job right. It's a really great story and very emotional. Thankfully, on a couple of rewatches, it does get a bit more fun because the first time round it is a very hard-hitting one, and with me personally, I was a bit reluctant to rewatch it the second and third time rounds. However, on the third viewing, I was able to find a bit more enjoyment with it, mostly with the main characters, because the main characters, when they were off doing their trying to make sure history stayed on float, it was a bit more fun seeing them going around doing this stuff. But yeah, this is still a really hard-hitting story, but it works really well. My main issue with this story is to do with the villain Krasko. Now, whilst I don't think a pure historical would have worked with this context, nor having a bunch of aliens come into place and like an alien invasion or whatever, no, that wouldn't work either. It has to be one, maybe two or three individual villains from the future or from another planet or something coming to this time period and just screwing stuff up. And I think in that regard, the story does that really well. It's just that the villain himself is boring and doesn't really have much of a motivation. The actor does well, but the character doesn't have much of a motivation. But that being said, I do think a character like him, just with a bit more personality, needed to be in this episode. We needed a character or characters like him in this episode. We couldn't have another alien invasion or, like Carrionites or the Vesperforms in this episode. You couldn't just have that. And similarly, it probably wouldn't have worked as a pure historical either. So we needed to go in the middle ground and just have one, maybe two or three villains from the future time traveling back in time to screw stuff up or have some sort of plan at the same time. We needed something that would actually work in this context of a story. And in regards, I think they got it well on a story-wise basis, but on the character-wise basis, Krasko doesn't quite work. But that's really my only issue with this story. That's it. The rest of it is really great, and it's very hard-hitting, but there's some fun to it as well in places. Check it out. It's a recommended must-watch at some point from me. Oh yeah, and Vinette Robertson is Rosa Parks in the episode. Like with the actor playing Nikola Tesla in Nikola Tesla's Life of Terror, Vinette Robertson just is Rosa Parks in this episode. And she gives the best guest actor performance in any episode of Series 11. And now, number one, my favourite episode of the 13th Doctor's era, and it's another hard-hitting episode just like Rosa, and it's another historical. This time round, it's a hard-hitting historical on a more character level as opposed to historical context. And this episode is, of course, Demons of the Punjab. This episode is amazing. It's a great character story for Yaz, even if she doesn't get as much of the character growth in this story as maybe she should have, and maybe she had a bit more focus. But the whole stuff with her family back at the time was amazing. It was really well handled. The Fajavians, initially I agreed with my friend Matt Moyer that they didn't need to be in the episode initially, and that's why it wasn't as high on this, in my opinion, originally. However, it was still second favourite of the series, of course, and there's still a 9 out of 10 when I first saw it. But then I started thinking about it, and I thought, actually, this does deserve a 10 out of 10, even with the aliens in it, and then that's why that got that story to second place of my 13th Doctor ranking above Haunting Villa Diodati. And now, after rewatching it for the Revisitation reviews, not only is it a 10 out of 10, but it's also the best episode of Series 11, topping Rosa, and the best episode of the 13th Doctor's era. It's just so good. It's also got a few more lighter moments than Rosa, although that does have its light moments, but the character interactions are a little bit more lighter and there's a bit more enjoyability. But man, does it have a big, hard-hitting conclusion, and the tension is building throughout this episode. It's a great mixture of easy, calm stuff before a massive storm comes our way, but you can already see and hear and feel the clouds approaching. It's not that far off, and when they hit big time. It is a fantastic episode. Heck, I would even argue the aliens' presence in this episode actually works in the context that they're here, because they're there to witness the people who die without being witnessed. That's a really clever idea. It's pretty good. Maybe they didn't need to act like, oh, they are assassins now. Maybe they could have outright said to the Doctor, we used to be assassins, but now we're observers or something. But when my biggest nitpick or issue or criticism of an episode is something that can still be debated, then you know this episode is doing something right. It is a fantastic story. And along with Rosa, these are two of the best episodes of the 2010s, and it proves Doctor Who can be heartbreaking whilst also inspiring. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And is easily the best episode of the 13th Doctor's era. Those second and third best are very good competition, especially the second. So there you go, that's my top 10 13th Doctor stories as of 2021. And I'll go through the list one more again. Number 10, Fugitive of the Jadoon. Number 9, Revolution of the Daleks. Number 8, Kablam. Number 7, Spyfall. Number 6, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. Number 5, Resolution. Number 4, The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Number 3, The Haunting of Villa Diodati. Number 2, Rosa. And number 1, Demons of the Punjab. So that's it. That's the last main Doctor Who ranking, the one that's with the reviews. Of course, I'll do other rankings later down the line, but they will be their own things as not part of the reviews as we're going along with them, like the other series rankings and the top 10 stories ranking. The other rankings will just be done like how other YouTubers do them. They just do a ranking every now and again of particular stuff, whilst this one is the last of the ones that ties in with the reviews. Which means we're now finished with all of the Doctor Who reviews at the moment. I might do some redukes and revisitations of other stories later down the line, but in terms of the big overall beginning to end reviews and marathon, we're finished. We're done. That's it. Next episode will be out later this year. So, yeah, we're finished. Well, time to crack it open. The good stuff. If you were able to see this glass during the review, the ranking video, then this is what it was for. Yeah, the last portion of this ranking is me just opening a Coke can and putting Coke in the glass. Well, here's to the Doctor Who reviews. Oh, that's good. I will be doing reviews of spin-offs, of course. I've already done K9 and Company, but I will also be doing Torchwood, the Sarah Jane Adventures, and the Australian K9 series, simply titled K9, and revisitation reviews of Class in the future, the latter of which will also be on this channel, alongside reviews of the Torchwood Story Continues audios, which are basically series 5 and 6, but the other Torchwood, Sarah Jane, and K9 reviews will go on the Retro channel. And like I mentioned, I might do some Redux Doctor Who reviews, and I'll do other rankings, but those rankings won't be part of this this main series of reviews and rankings, unless it's Redux of season rankings, or top 10 Doctor Stories rankings, or top 10 stories of the decade rankings. And of course I'll be doing other Doctor Who videos on the Whoniversals and the Tooniversals as well, including an upcoming review of the novel The Eight Doctors, which I have over there at the moment. Here we go, this is what I'm talking about. So this will be coming up soon if it's not already out. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching these reviews and rankings over the last nearly 3 years. On both my Nicholas Payne Retro channel and this channel, plus some on the Whoniversals and the Tooniversals. I've also got some videos to make about the 11th Doctor minisodes and the TARDISodes from Series 2. But as for the main episodes and their rankings related to them, we're done. That's it. It's finished. So, thank you so much for watching these reviews and rankings over the last nearly 3 years on the Nicholas Payne Retro channel and of this main channel, as well as a couple on the Whoniversals and the Night of the Doctor one on the Tooniversals. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you guys next time for whatever the next video is. And don't forget, providing you've been saying nice things, you've been fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And you know what? So was I. I might be blowing my trumpet a little bit, but this is the end of the marathon and every single story reviews and the rankings related to those, so I can afford to be a little self-indulgent here. So if you would please join me in a toast to Doctor Who. And I shall see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne YouTube channel.